Coach, hey, thanks for joining me today on this outstanding Simple Coach to Coach interview, which I am sure, because it is a Mount Union interview, will be the best Simple Coach to Coach in the history of Simple Coach to Coaches. So no pressure. I want to thank you for taking the time today. I know you've been busy, European trips, camps, like, my gosh, but thank you very much for finally being on. This is awesome.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so this is your second year. You're going into your second season, right? Last year was your first.
Going into the third.
Third.
Got here in the middle of the pandemic, played the COVID season, and then
yeah. That makes sense.
It's weird. Like, do you count that one? Do you not? Like, but
it's
two full
like,
seasons. It was a weird time.
Yeah,
tough time to take over a program for sure.
Yeah. So maybe we could just start. What's your experience been like? What's your sort of your soccer journey?
I'm probably a little more unique than a lot of people in terms of I spent a long time as an assistant, 10 years as an assistant, 9, 10, something like that. Bounced around a bit. I went volunteer right out of college at my alma mater at Hiram. Went from there to down to Xavier University in Cincinnati. Was on staff there. Left there to go back to Hiram as a GA. Then Notre Dame College, which is Division II in Cleveland. Was actually on the men's and women's side there as a goalkeeper coach, which I'm not a goalkeeper, so that was an interesting time. And then from there went to realized very quickly that Division III is the right place for me. I love Division III and everything about it. So went back to Division III at Case Western Reserve. Fortunately, was able to work with Brandon Bianco there, who I think very highly of.
Yeah,
and I think most
great
people
guy,
do.
Great guy.
And then from there to Penn State Barron, my only trip outside of Ohio, and then who I think you just did your interview with
Coach Caratano. Yeah, that was another spectacular one. Such another great guy.
Yeah, he's a character. You'll you get him off camera, you'll get the full personality, I'm sure. But and then during the pandemic, got the head job here. So happy to be back in Ohio. I'm from Cleveland originally, so to be back in Ohio, Erie's not exactly far from Ohio, but it was definitely a different place. So being in Ohio it's nice to be back home. So
I wanted to ask this to can I ask what your dad's name is?
Richard,
no. Okay.
Yeah, I know there's an alum here, last name Krems, and but no relations whatsoever.
No. Okay. Good. Actually, that's kind of good, but we'll just leave it at that. But that's when I was a goalkeeper coach at Mount. So, I get the whole COVID thing, and I know Coach Poe, who is at Case Western now, was at Mount Union for 5 or 6 years. I can't remember the time frame, and then jumped at COVID, and then you come on board. But can I ask, especially because there's people don't realize. Again, I'm an alum for those who haven't been listening at all to this thing for the last year and a half, 2 years, where I've constantly referenced that I'm a Mount Union alum. But there's been a lot of transition that's been going on over the last, I'll just say 3 to 5 years. A lot of things in flux. Coach Krems, the longtime athletic director, retired, all that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of moving parts, new president. Were you hired? And Coach, the athletic director, Mike Parnell, interim, what have you. But were you hired with a purpose? Some guys get hired to, hey, we want you to build, rebuild, do whatever. Was there anything like that for you?
I think the big thing. So I was Mike Parnell's first hire. He was still the interim athletic director, and now he's our full-time athletic director.
Yep.
but I think he was only a few weeks, maybe a month into the job when he had to go make a hire already. So I don't know if that was a good timing thing or a bad timing thing for me, but it worked out in my favor.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, the big thing for me was I think highly of Coach Poe. He did a really good job here. I think he got Mount Union going in the right direction for men's soccer. And then when I was brought in, the direct initiative right off the bat was we want to continue that moving forward. We want to win. We want to be at the top of the conference. I think, as you well know, mediocrity at Mount Union on athletics is unacceptable. So
that's verboten, man.
Oh yeah, so yeah, just across the board, all the sports are good, and I think there was one sport below 500 this year. And so that's the expectation, and it was a place that I wanted to be because of that. So the big pushes when I was interviewing, and then obviously when I got the job, were obviously recruiting. Everyone is enrollment driven, so you have to recruit. My big focus was kind of diversifying our recruiting, though, not just sticking in Northeast Ohio. I want to add diversity through underrepresented populations, especially in men's soccer, and then I also want to increase our diversity across the country. So my first recruiting class, who will now be sophomores, that was all Northeast Ohio. One player outside of Northeast Ohio, so Pittsburgh goalkeeper. Everybody else was Northeast Ohio, and I mean, it was intentional. I needed to dive into one area and really hit hard, and it was a deep class for that graduating class in Cleveland. So we wanted to make sure we hit as much as we could. Now this incoming freshman class, we knew Cleveland wasn't as deep for that graduating class, so we went about half of it is from Cleveland, half of it is from out of state. So we have a Michigan, 2 Pennsylvania, Orlando.
Orlando, wow.
Yeah, we have a young man coming from Orlando, so we're excited about him. He's pumped for the snow, so good for him.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but we had a commit from India, and unfortunately he decommitted. But yeah, really, same thing with a kid from Canada. Really trying to get our footprint beyond just the Great Lakes region. Look, our recruiting class will always be about half of it will be from Northern Ohio, but trying to get guys from different areas too. So big to try to just diversify recruiting and add diversity into our team. But then also, obviously, winning was the other driving force behind it. And I've been fortunate, been at places with great coaches that I've worked with and great programs. And we were top 25 at Notre Dame. We were top 10 in the country at Xavier. We were top 25 at Barron. And then case is case. It's if you can compete in that conference, you're always going to be at the top, right? So
you're top. Just leave it at that.
Yeah. So had kind of different experiences from each one of those schools and each one of those coaches that I was able to work with, and I think that's probably what drew Mike Parnell to being interested in kind of my background and coming in and pushing Mount Union forward. So
your expanded recruiting sort of perimeter, right? That out of state, out of country, that sort of thing. Is that more of a you thing? Just sort of how you want to do it? I come from a generation of guys that OAC teams were recruiting heavily in New Jersey at the time, and a buddy of mine went to Capital and in the 80s, and so I always wondered why it's not further expanded. But
we're systematic about it. So we kind of look at 2 years out and just look at those classes and, okay, is that a deep class in Northern Ohio where we can really focus on it? Or like we know this current senior class, so the 2024s, we don't really think it's that deep in Northern Ohio in terms of guys that we'll be looking at. So we're trying to hit, we really like Columbus in the 24 class, so we're trying to hit Columbus pretty hard. Hopefully our Columbus counterparts aren't watching this too much and hearing me say that. But we're trying to get into there because we're really not far from Columbus and Pittsburgh. 2 hours outside of Columbus, hour and a half outside of northern Pittsburgh, and we're an hour and a half from Cleveland, so Pittsburgh is just close. So, but yeah, and then the big thing for us is we have more success with out of town guys if there's some sort of connection to the area still. So the Orlando incoming freshman he has family in Canton, so he was able to come up, visit them, his aunt and uncle, and then come on a visit. So it worked out pretty well. But yeah, I saw him at a camp down in Florida and liked him a lot, and so he came up and did a camp up here and then did a visit. So, but yeah, I do want to get guys from different areas because I think it changes the dynamic in the team. So just if you only get guys from Cleveland that all know each other all the time, like, are we really broadening our horizons at all?
Yeah.
But then it also, my big thing that I say to our assistant coaches all the time is, if we are leaving the area to get a kid, I want it to be someone that we don't find in Northeast Ohio. I don't want to just be the same kid that we can get from Northeast Ohio. So trying to get guys that just fit different skill sets for us as well.
Just a couple thoughts. I think just the way it's playing out generally in soccer, youth soccer, is that I don't think geography is as big of a deal anymore. I think kids, if they're interested in, a lot of kids interested in playing, they will go where they can play. And I think if it means that, granted the connection helps, but a Florida kid coming to Ohio isn't such an anomaly anymore. At
social
other
media
programs
helps with that too.
Yeah. Just the connection and the knowledge, and you feel a little bit more connected. So I think,
and
definitely.
The ability to, like when I played, we had cell phones. It was a 50-50 chance if it actually worked in your dorm or not. So you're using your room phones. It's like, how much were you actually connecting with your parents back home? Whereas so our guy from Florida can call his mom every day if he really feels like it. It's different. Like, you can stay connected to your family while being away. So
very, 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 very true. I forget the other one. So one of the things that I noticed when you came on board, and again was a first, is your trip to Italy, and I think it was Greece that I followed you. So probably the most important question is, why wasn't I invited?
So you will be for the next one, I promise.
Yeah. Better be, dang it.
This trip, we did not it was technically open to anybody, like family, friends, but we really just wanted, for my sake, it was my first one being the head coach. I've gone on one as a player, two as an assistant coach, and then this is my first one as a head coach. I kind of wanted to have a smaller group that I was overseeing. So,
I wonder why.
Right? So we kept it small for this one. The next one, we're opening it back up to all alums. All the guys that were on the trip this time, they're like, Coach, we're coming on the next one. I was like, all right, maybe a quarter of you actually will. But it was something that I loved as a player. It was the time of my life as a player. I went to Spain as a player, and then when I was the GA at Hiram, we went to Costa Rica, which was great. And then when I was at Barron, we went back to Spain. Yeah, a little different when you're the assistant coach as opposed to a player, it's a big thing, I think, for our guys. We pitch it in the recruiting. We make sure guys understand, and I tell guys right off the bat, look, you'll remember the soccer you played over there for a year or two, and then you'll forget about that part. It's all the other stuff. So they were exhausted because when we travel, I'm a go type of person, and so, like, the agency we went through was like, you're going to want some free time. I was like, I don't want free time. I was like, I want these guys to be busy the whole time. So, So that they're tired at the nighttime, too. We did a ton. Florence was great. Unfortunately, it was raining for most of our time in Italy, but so that affected things a little bit. But Florence, got to see all the touristy stuff in Florence in Italy, or in Rome. So Rome... we played one game in Florence, one game in Rome, one game in Athens. All of our guys right away were speaking about Athens and just like there was a different vibe in Greece as opposed to in Italy. Like Italy was great. You got to see stuff that you only see in books and movies.
Yeah.
And the food was unbelievable. But you got to Greece and immediately like there's a different buzz and all the people are just so welcoming and it was great. So so we're excited. Starting to talk about the next trip already. We'll start fundraising immediately for that one to try to make it more affordable. Basically, I give the guys 3 options of where we can go, and then let them pick.
Yeah.
So I thought they were going to pick Argentina, but they jumped right on Italy and Greece. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. Well, that's probably the first European trip that I think a Mount Union soccer program, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I know volleyball has done them in the past. That's the only one I know of that's done them. But it's something we'll continue to do. So
again, it ends up being, as I mentioned to you earlier, there's a little bit of an arms race, right? If you're not doing that, if you're not going on a European or a foreign trip every 4 years or whatever the time span is, 5 years, you're left behind, right?
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's a recruiting tool. Hey, look, we do these trips. You'll get to go on a trip. And yeah. Okay, so actually, I'm going to assume I already know the answer, but I wanted to ask you, especially now that you're PA, you're in Ohio, and what your comments about where you're recruiting and you're trying to expand the recruiting footprint. I'm going to suggest that you do think that there are regional differences between players. Is that fair? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Even just within our Great Lakes region. I think like Cleveland is. I'm not trying to offend anyone from Western Pennsylvania in any way. Cleveland, I think, plays a more technical style of soccer with still having big physical kids. Midwest boys. So and then Western Pennsylvania. And if you talk to guys that run clubs in Pittsburgh and Erie, they'll always say that they're years behind Cleveland. I don't think they're as far behind as they say they are. I think they're a little self-deprecating in that regard, but they are definitely Western New York, Western Pennsylvania are big, strong, physical kids. You know that anytime you go play one of those teams, they're just going to hit you the whole time. And then you see that in the college game too, because you start playing those President's Conference schools, and like we opened with Geneva this year, and they're going to be physical, and they hit you, and they just play a different style of soccer, and it's tough to deal with. Whereas if we go down into trying to get Texas kids or Florida kids, we can find a lot more Hispanic players in those regions. Yeah. Northeast Ohio is predominantly white soccer players playing for club soccer that a lot of them play a similar style. It's you have a lot of like Polish and Slavic background, older generation here that, we play their style of soccer. That's who coach us. So, which there's good and bad to all of it, right? So, but I like getting into some of the other markets because we can get more diverse backgrounds as well. Especially, East Coast is just so hard to get kids because there's so many schools. Same thing in Ohio. There's just so many schools. Yeah. So just a different type of kid, different type of person, different type of player from market to market. So
Ohio's a lot like Pennsylvania when it comes to schools. You're competing. You throw a stone and you hit a school that you're competing with, whether doesn't matter the division or where they play. Like they're all going after the same players, right?
Yeah.
And the concentration of them.
Our issue is that it's, at least in Pennsylvania, there's many conferences that they're all spread out between. It's like we're just recruiting against our conference constantly. So it's like we all go after the same kid.
Same guys, Maybe you could talk a little bit about team culture. You mentioned you sort of came in at a really rough time, COVID and all of that. And, how big of a deal is it for you? And maybe, a thing or two that you do at Mount to sort of reinforce what you're trying to accomplish on the field.
Yeah, so I'm big on ownership without having to be all over them constantly about it. So what I mean by that is, like, they know what the expectations are. They know what we demand of them off the field. I shouldn't have to be on you 24/7 to get it done. The guys that we have to chase constantly usually don't stick it out. They're usually gone pretty quickly. So, but the guys that really buy in are the ones that not only succeed off the field, but naturally it ends up happening where they're the ones that are succeeding on the field. And part of that's probably bias because we've had good interactions with them off the field because they're getting all their stuff done. So we're naturally in a better mood about them once we get on the field.
Yeah.
But we just graduated a big class that I had inherited. When we were coming, so this time last year, it would have been 21 of them. It trimmed down drastically even before the season started. I think we ended up graduating 16 because a couple guys graduated early as well. But that's a big class. So I love those guys. Was really happy to coach them. Really enjoyed coaching them and spending time with them. Looking forward to their time as alumni. But it's different when they're guys that are doing what they're told to do, as opposed to guys that are coming here being told this is what we do and that's why they want to be here.
Mm-hmm.
So, so all of our guys now are guys that even we have a couple transfers that we have a transfer from Calvin that I coached him as a youth player.
Wow.
So I coached him as a kid and he knows me really well. I know his family really well. So it's just different than somebody that, he's a fifth year for us, but we didn't inherit him where I didn't know anything about him. Mm-hmm. So having guys that are all just completely bought into the culture and what we expect of them. We do community service. We do campus involvement. They're required to be in one organization outside of soccer at all times. And it's something where I don't tell them what they have to be doing. They have to just go find outside of soccer what else is going to identify you. So we have guys that are involved in a bunch of different stuff. I always joke that the first year they all found the loophole. They, as college kids always will, they all joined the weightlifting club. They're like, we have to lift anyway. Might as well count that as our club. So, we had to get rid of that for this year, and they're not allowed to do that anymore. But two of our freshmen came in, and they weren't big into chess, but they on the bus rides were playing chess on the app on their phone, actually against our assistant coach. And they got really into it, so their activity outside of soccer, there's no chess club here. So they started their own chess club. And
how awesome.
Oh, yeah, so they spent the year writing a constitution for the chess club and having bylaws, finding an advisor, and going through starting the chess club. So now next year they'll have the chess club up and running. So it's just, I tell every single one of our recruits, if you simply want to go to school where you're going to class, going to practice, and then going back to your room and playing FIFA the rest of the night, this won't be the right fit for you, and you shouldn't come here. If you want to get as much as you can out of your 4 years and just do as much as you possibly can, that's the type of guys that we want here. So
it's very – the easy route is to be ordinary, but then you'll just be ordinary the rest of your life, and that's no way to spend your time going around the sun, right? Like
we just graduated an academic All-American center back that we use him as the example, and he knows we use him as the example, but he's a triple major, triple minor, graduated with a 4.0 GPA, graduated a semester early. He's Josh Palmer. He's a specimen. He was everything that we wanted on the field. Picked up some injuries, still got, I think, first team all-conference, even though I think he missed 4 of the conference games. So coaches were happy to not have to see him on the field a lot of times, and we were devastated every time he picked up an injury. Yeah. So, but those are the guys that we want here. So
I called him Mr. Clean.
Yeah.
Like I didn't realize he was that special. That's outstanding.
Yeah. So he's
that is just outstanding.
He's going to start grad school at American this
good fall, spot for.
He's looking at Duke, American, and Yale, so I'm like, I can't really go wrong with those options.
Yeah. But certainly didn't have those options when I graduated.
Nor did I.
But I had a lot of fun with my 2.3 grade point average.
There you go.
I'm going to assume this is the chess app because we all us cool kids have the right chess app playing anyhow.
You have to play against some of our guys.
Yeah, I'm going to join the club. I'm going to sign up as an alum. I'm going to join the chess club. That's fantastic. I love hearing that. All right, let's switch over to the season. Without any prompts, could you just give me your sense as to what your overall impressions are of this past season? Where I'll just to clarify, you went 9, 4, and 5.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, not good enough. We had a talented group that we just shot ourselves in the foot a little too much. Most of the goals, I think we did the math a couple weeks ago, and over 70% of the goals we gave up were to set pieces and long throw-ins. And unfortunately, in my opinion, that's the way the game is going right now, is everyone seems to be having somebody with a long throw-in, and they just whip it into the box. And apparently we're going to have to go find a 6'5" goalkeeper to deal with it. And so it made it tough. No excuses. We need to find a way to be better at defending those. But we didn't give up a ton of goals in the run of play. We were really tough to break down. We played 2 different systems, so being able to vary between the two was beneficial for us. But we were tough to break down in the run of play, and we need to do way better on set pieces because it's a big part of the game now, and always has been, but it's a big part of the game at the moment. And if we can clean that piece up, there's a couple of those ties that are definitely wins. There's a couple of those losses that are closer to either being a tie or a win as well. So, but I mean, the OAC is a bear. I know you've had most of the OAC, if not all of their coaches on here at this point. I think really highly of the coaches in our conference. Everyone's getting better, where it's already tough. So the fact that everyone's getting better is going to be more challenging. You don't get an off day, which is always rough, because so even like Muskingum's on their 3rd coach in 3 years now, and I still think they're going to get better. So Corey's going to do a good job there.
I think he's gonna do some things there.
I agree, and
put it right on track again. And that sort of thing.
John Bloom was there this past year, and just for a year, and he did a great job. Honestly, they were so much more disciplined and structured. They were hard to break down. I want to say we beat them 2-0, and our guys were frustrated. They couldn't find a way. We benefited. Our keeper probably should have been sent off about 15 minutes in, and they only gave him a yellow, and that would have changed the whole game if he would have been sent off. So, so when the teams that have struggled recently are getting better, and the teams at the top are just getting better as well, it's going to be tough. Ohio Northern was very, very, very good this past year, and John Carroll's been good for the past 10 years, and they Otterbein play a different style than the rest of the conference, and they're tough to deal with. And I would actually say there's not 2 teams in our conference that play similar. So when I was at Barron, you play Mount Aloysius and Medaille, which play similar styles, and those are the next 2 best teams of the conference, so you know what you can prepare for. In the OAC, it's every single team is different, so you have to kind of be ready for everything. So so it's tough conference. We added more strength in our out of conference for this coming year. Added Case and Calvin for this coming season.
I saw that.
They're both coming to us, which is nice, but it's still 2 very challenging games. But we just have to prepare for that OAC, and that's always the aim for us, is being at the top of the conference and taking the steps to be at the top of the conference. But
that's the part that I hate about John Carroll, and I say that lovingly, because they've been nothing. Dayon's been nothing but great with me, always willing to talk and I have John Carroll golf gear that helped me play better.
Throw that stuff
Got,
out. Come on now.
yeah. But that's why I say I hate John Carroll, because I don't know what the secret formula is, but the fact that they've been so consistent as they have over the longest stretch of time, to me is remarkable.
Dayon's a good friend. So we've known each other for a while as assistant coaches against each other, and I don't think we played against each other. I think he would have been a senior my senior year of high school, but we knew each other and just growing up in the area together. So so I think really highly of him. Want to beat him every single
please
time,
please do. I'll be the first one to call them up when they lose. I'll be like, yoo-hoo! Celebrate, send them purple gear, all of it. I'll do it all. I'll go hog wild.
No, they're good. I thought Ohio Northern were the best team in the conference this past year.
Oh my gosh, yeah. They were just fantastic.
But I mean, even the ones like Capital were really good, and they're young. I think they were mostly sophomores. They're a very talented team. Otterbeин's always solid. Yeah. Marietta had a rough year in their standards, but it's because they were just injured the entire season. And they but they're tough and they're physical and like they can play. So like there's just no. Wilmington was the most athletic team I've ever seen play Division III soccer. So
really,
oh my gosh, thankfully they all graduated because that fifth year class was just so athletic.
It's a killer.
So it's a challenge, but we love it because you have to get up every single day. And when you look at our conference, and I'll tell recruits that that there's going to be a team sitting at home missing our conference playoffs, finishing in 7th or 8th. That could be winning a lot of the conferences across the country.
Oh, absolutely.
So Marietta missed the playoffs this year, but you put them 100 miles to the east where they're playing in the PAC, and they're battling at the top.
They're battling it out, absolutely.
No offense to the PAC or the AMCC, it's just kind of where our conference is at the moment. NCAC can claim the same thing, but it's challenging. So, but it's fun. It's making me lose my hair faster, but it makes us want to compete every single day.
That's what hats are for, Coach. I'd always say iron sharpens iron, and the last thing you want, as painful as it can be for me to watch, the last thing that I would want for Mount Union would be to be in a conference where you're competing against one and two other schools, and then everything else is kind of easy, because you don't get any better that way. And it doesn't. And if you do, when you do go beyond that conference, you're not good enough to play. And so, to me, the OAC, I've been saying it for 2-3 years now. The OAC is probably the most undervalued. I don't know what the right word is, to underestimated conference, just because of the quality throughout. And I think what's interesting is the fact that now what you mentioned about your strength of schedule, about Calvin and I forget who you mentioned, Case Western, right? Like now you're really putting yourself in almost like a grinder for the entire season. Like you can't rest, and I hate to say it, that's what this is about. It's about every game being as competitive as you can possibly make it, and then improving to the point where you win those games. And then you have that season where you sort of roll through and you're like, hey, you have all this momentum and go into a tournament and you do all that stuff. So
well, and another piece with it also, it comes up when we talk about a lot of the guys that we recruit look at a lot of the Division IIs in Ohio. And when I was at Notre Dame, it's just our facilities were nice. Charleston's were nice, but then you go play at another school in West Virginia and you play on a baseball outfield that doesn't even have any grass. And it's like, so to have a conference that every single school cares about athletics and values the same things that we value, it goes a long way. So I can't speak highly enough about the OAC. As a Hiram alum, I was always pushing the NCAC first, and now I've jumped ships and I'm pushing the OAC all the time.
Well, it is true that I've been to a number of the OAC schools, and I just think it's part of I'll just say the cultural makeup of the OAC and sort of being in Ohio and all that. But the athletic facilities are the bomb. Like, it doesn't matter where you go. Like, I mean, Muskegum is still, you're like, what they all built? And you're like, are you kidding me? Like, I was there in the spring before Corey was hired as the men's coach, and I was just in the fall, I'm sorry, and Coach Gunderson has been super great for the channel. She's been a wealth of information and always been willing to be on. But I wanted to see their field and watch a game and what they have there. I mean, Muskegum, you know what I mean? Like, I mean this respectfully to the Muskies out there. I consider myself a honorary Muskie. Muskegum is a nothing like and here you have this oasis of athletic facility, among other things, right? But athletic facilities, you're just like, this is crazy. This is the bomb.
Yeah,
so,
I don't know all the details. I'm sure they can speak to it. Something happened with contracts or something. They got that field for cheap, but
really?
Yeah, I was like, good for you guys. Get as much I'm happy for them. So because people warned me when I took the job here, they're like, yeah, Muskie, you go play on the high grass, you can barely pass the ball, and so when I got there and I was like, they had just put in that brand new facility, I lucked out. So.
Yeah. That's funny because that field that they used to play on is what I think it's the same field I play, and there was no grass. It was. They were like 3-leaf clovers, you know, no 4 leaves, like in like mutant grass. And they mowed it, if you can call it. I think they striped it. They didn't even mow it, but and that was way back during the glory days, right?
Yeah.
Hey, let me. I am curious about this. Just again, your overall experience, and you had the 5 ties this season. I mean, what are your thoughts on the no OT? Would you have been okay to, like, hey, let's battle this out? I mean, you tied Denison at Denison, and I watched parts of that game on the football field, right? Their
grass. I mean, their new facility is going to be great, but their grass was unplayable, and we were happy about it because we don't ever play on grass, so it was nice to be on a surface we're used to. I knew you were going to ask that because I've watched your other interviews, so I'm ready for it. But
you're prepped.
No, I think Dayon's the other one on the same page as me, that we've been pretty outspoken, even when it was going to vote, that we hate it. I don't want to quote him but I'm pretty confident he's the one that's on the same page as me.
Yeah.
I'm all about the student athlete experience. And everyone's going to pitch. It's good to not have that extra time on the legs and everything, but guys want to win, and they want to compete to win. They don't want to tie. And I think that one of the problems we're having at the moment is we're kind of forgetting who we are at Division III a little bit and trying to replicate the professional game a little too much, which I know that's driven by Division I, but we're different than them. And when you watch the professional game as opposed to a Division III game, the ball goes out of bounds a lot more for us. We have a lot more substitutions that we take breaks for. There's more fouling. Like the game stops so much more. So the actual amount of play is drastically different from our level to theirs. So the fact that we're taking away overtime for us, I don't like it. I hate ties. I think it's the worst part about soccer. I want to battle it out and have a chance to win. I even have joked for a long time, and before that, the concept of getting rid of overtime came up, that we should go to PKs in the regular season and find a winner. Because I'm like, I just hate ties, and it changes the way that a lot of teams play. And I mean, it hurt our season drastically this year. But no, I would rather have a winner. I would rather battle it out. I love the moment of an overtime golden goal.
Ecstasy or agony. Nothing better. I remember those.
Yeah, exactly. Like I still remember, like we had a couple when I was in college. One over John Carroll that everyone sprints over, jumps into the fan pit and with the alums, and it's like you'll remember those ones forever. You don't remember the tie to Denison on the first week of the season. So I would just much rather see it go back to the way it was. It's not going to. but we're at where we're at. But I also think that the other big piece of it, a simple solution that they could have is putting the clock in the hands of the referee. Get rid of our countdown to zero high school American soccer model. And if you want the clock to count down instead of up, fine, let it count down. But know that the final whistle is actually with the referee and he can add stoppage time and let us get a little more soccer to be played.
That's a good point. I never thought about that. That's a good point. That would invariably, get you more soccer, right? Yeah. Because just as a referee myself, I kind of know intuitively how much time is killed through subs and the throw and all that kind of stuff that you could add minutes, right? Like I think that's a really good point.
That's the path of least confrontation because it solves both sides. The people that are fighting for no extra time, all right, they still don't have it. The people that want to see more soccer be played and give us the inability to change games by killing the game off it makes
Did you see a lot of that? Sorry to interrupt, but did you see a lot of, not killing off, but did you see teams like go into, we're preserving this come hell or high water? Or doing whatever they could to have a positive outcome where you think they wouldn't normally have that outcome?
I would not say from like the opening kickoff. But definitely as the game starts going and they realize, look, we're not a top 10 team, so the top 10 teams probably see it more than we do. But there were definitely some that we probably were a favorite opponent and they changed the way they play because of that. But no, it's I don't know. I would rather just see winners, losers. It also speaks into my hatred for the long throw in because ball goes out the side of the field, and you have a left back has to jog all the way across the field, and it's like, all right, we just took another 2 minutes to get the ball back in.
This actually I should have added. I'm doing I'm doing my best theories about the game, and I didn't include the long throws because my biggest issue with the long throw isn't the long throw or the time wasting. It's just that I think a majority of them tend to be illegal. Yeah. And whether positionally where they end up taking the throw from, or my favorite is that sidewinder. Hey, I'm going to get like that. Like I think they're illegal. But anyhow, sorry, I got sidetracked.
And don't get me wrong, I'm completely hypocritical because if we had somebody that had an athlete, we would use it too. Yeah. So we just don't. So I could be on this side of the fence for it. But But no, I just think my big thing with it isn't the long throw, and that's why I tell people, I'm like, look, we need to do better at defending it. That's my job to make us better at defending it. But
it is true. Like
it just kills the game.
Yeah.
So
it takes a minute for the throw, right? Especially if they're on the far side and then they prep. They do because the long throw guys have to do their whole bit to get distance, and and it takes them forever. So it takes a minute. Yep. You get 5 of those, you've killed 5 minutes in a game. In a half, right? Like so. All right. So, like, you went on the European trip. What was your intent for the spring? What did you hope to accomplish? I've said all along that I think good teams take the spring as like their it's terrible springboard. Oh my God, their launching pad for the fall. Like, and so I'm just curious, what was your goal for the spring?
So we went into the spring very intently with putting in a tweak onto our system to fit because we just lost so much of our personnel that to fit the players that we see expecting to play. But the big piece for us was we had a very talented freshman class that are now sophomores that are just waiting to get on the field because we had so many seniors that it was, all right, who's going to stand up and win this spot? Who's going to win these moments? Who's going to get on the field? our 6 and our center back were both out for the all spring with having surgeries. So it opened more battles for guys to go out and win it. So we loved it. Coach, our assistant coach and I both, we said like we enjoyed going out to practice every single day. And even our 5th years said the same thing. They're like, Coach, it's just different right now. And I was like, that's natural, just being in the spring as opposed to the fall. But you could tell like the group right now, the camaraderie and the culture is just unbelievable for us, and they want to go out and they battle every single day, but then they are extremely close and supportive with each other. I always say that you battle on Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday if your name doesn't get called, you have to support the other guy. So, and I think that's where we're at now, and that was a big focus for us in the spring, which again, that's easier in the spring when we don't have games, but kind of bringing the group together, putting tweaks onto our system, and then just getting a feel for, okay, who do we think is going to actually win these spots? And I think we're in a much better spot. We had a great spring play date. The kind of bottom of our roster played against Hiram and won 2-1. Kind of the middle of our roster played against Thomas More and won 2-1. Those were both just half games. And then we played with all of our first guys, played a full match against Lake Erie, and we tied 1-1. So good games, good battles. Lake Erie are good, and they were in the Final Four last year for Division II. So now they lost a lot, but they. But yeah, it was. I thought we had a very productive spring in terms of getting everything we could out of it. And it's Northeast Ohio, and we didn't get snowed on in the spring, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah. I'm surprised.
We didn't even have any lightning delays. Like we got every practice in the way we expected to. So
Especially that Northeast Ohio, it's like right there. It's kind of like that spot where all the weather converges in one spot, in one place.
In one day.
In one day, yeah. All right. So last question for you, and let you get on with your day and camps and whatnot. If you could peg it without being on a motivation board for one of the, for Dayon and for his locker room, but like, do you have any goals you can share for what you hope to accomplish in the fall?
I think every single team in the OAC is going to say the same thing. Like, we're here to win it. Like, the crazy part is you have a team that can legitimately win the conference that could also finish in 7th or 8th. So it's just the craziness of the OAC. But no, I think we are talented. We're inexperienced, but we're very talented. So it's a matter of how quickly our guys adjust to being the guys at the top of the chart now instead of the guys that were just waiting. But no, we're a very talented group. I'm excited for this group. When I look at our out-of-conference play, like, we're going to have some dogfights. Like, Calvin is going to be a dogfight. Case is going to be as well. Bethany is a different beast because they just have all these international guys. So, no, I would say there's not a single game on our schedule that we're not capable of winning, but there's also not a single game on our schedule that we're not capable of losing. So, the moment I would say that we're not here with the goal and the intent of competing to win an OAC championship and play in a national tournament, is probably the moment that Mike Parnell should be letting me go. So it's the expectation here, and it's what we want. We want to be battling, but we also know that it's a very tough road, and there are 9 other schools in our conference that are very capable,
have other ideas
to do that. So, and they should. I would hope that they all have the same mindset that they want to be winning. Like, that's why our conference is so strong. So
very cool, Coach. This was fantastic. I didn't want to go without. I think I have to congratulate you for your engagement. Congratulations to you, your wife to be.
Thank you.
It's you're on a journey of life. That's another huge milestone. So
anyone that can put up with our coaching lifestyle is they're crazy. So she's awesome. She supports everything we do. She's at every game.
Great.
So
that's awesome.
That was good. So thank you.
Hey, we'll be in touch. Again, thank you very much. This is spectacular, and really glad we were able to connect.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yep. All right, Coach.
Bye.
You know, when I was going through the recruiting process, you got some phone calls, you sent and received a whole bunch of letters, maybe got a t-shirt in the mail, and then maybe if you were lucky, you went on a college visit. And that's how I landed at University of Mount Union, just through happenstance. The better way is if you were recommended by a friend who went to school, you had a high school coach or a club coach who knew somebody. You were seen if you were lucky enough to play on a pretty competitive high school team, or you went to one of the few club tournaments around there. I mean, the Pocono Cup was the place to play back in the 80s. But truth be told, nowadays you're competing for roster spots with guys you've never seen, you've never played against, you don't know, and can be from anywhere across the country. So you have to have your own recruiting process button tight if you want to land a roster spot. And this, the college recruiting process can be pretty overwhelming. There's a ton of paid services out there that do what they do. But truth be told, you don't necessarily need them to get recruited. You could do it all yourself. Unfortunately, there's tools out there. So, one of those tools and a great starting point is to check out Discover College Soccer Study Table. Now, I've interviewed Matt Baer, who's the founder of Discover College Soccer, before. Really great guy. And you've probably seen his podcast. I've referred to it and recommend anybody to go to check out his interviews with coaches at all levels that is specifically designed to talk about the recruiting process and the different college programs. He's not talking about them himself, he's letting the coaches speak. So with all of that information that he's gathered, he's put together this study table that is a program to help you with your recruiting process that's complete with video course on the recruiting process from start to finish. He has these that are updated spreadsheets that are updated monthly, with contact information and details about every program in the country. That alone is worth its weight in salt. He has a bunch of other resources, email templates, checklists to help you guide you through your own process. Now, the best part is, whereas you can pay thousands of dollars to some of these recruiting services, you can get a lifetime subscription to the study table for less than one night in a tournament hotel. The best part of it is that Matt has his own soccer experience. He's a former college player and college coach. He's talked to over 150 coaches in just the last year, and he has some great insights and has created something that I think is probably very, very useful to a lot of you, and best of all, you get to save time and save money. Now look, I don't recommend people that I don't know or I haven't come to know. I've talked to Matt, as I mentioned, on a number of occasions, and he's probably has the most insightful and, I'll just say, thorough understandings of the recruiting process. Not because he's made it up, but because he's asked coaches across the college game. And he's taken all of that, figured out what the best recommendations from all of those discussions that he has, and put that together into the study table. So if you don't want to spend thousands on recruiting, on a recruiting service, and you have the mind to do it yourself, the Discover College Soccer Study Table is for you. So in the description, you can find a link that will get you 20% off on a lifetime subscription. Or if you go to discovercollegesoccer.com, click on the study table to register and use the discount code SIMPLE, you get to save 20% on your subscription. So with that, good luck.